I was listening to one lazy masquerade, and found this forum. Lurking around this subreddit stirred up an old memory I had to share. It's not something I've shared to many people, but not for the reasons you might think. I guess I'll get to it. Disclaimer: it's been a while since I've recalled this, so I'm paraphrasing a bit and I don't know if everything matches up perfectly. I hope that doesn't break the rules too much. North Louisiana, 1999-2000. I was 11 or 12 at the time. The neighborhood I grew up in was not the best, lower middle class, but it was considered pretty safe at the time. At least, it was safe enough for my friends and I to explore every inch till nightfall without getting into too much trouble. Overall, there were a lot of kids running around the neighborhood when I was a kid. Anyway, I can't remember what my brother and I were doing, maybe walking home from school, or from a friend's house, but we were walking home and were suddenly stopped by a van. The window rolls down to reveal a man who seemed normal enough. He was clean-shaven, with horn-rimmed glasses, and his hair was slicked back and well-kept. He never got out of the car, but you could tell he was fairly large. He looks at my brother and goes, "Hey y'all. You heading home? Y'all need a ride?" My brother and I didn't have the best relationship growing up, but when he saw the guy he got in front of me, and glared at the man. "No sir, our house is right down the block," my brother said. "Well, I know your parents. I don't think they'd mind giving you a ride," the man said, slightly pressing the issue. He didn't smile. He didn't really even have much expression. The way he spoke was more off-putting the more he talked. "No thanks, it's not that long of a walk," my brother replied, not even blinking. Through all of this, my brother had been nudging me away from the van. I was uneasy, but more so over my brother's reaction to the man. "All right, well, I'll see you later." He rolled up his window and drove off, not even waiting for a reply before driving away. I probably not as scared as I should be. I was pretty naive back then, but I honestly didn't think we were in that much danger. I was with my brother, who was 3 years older than me, and unlike me, I was pretty small, and looked young for my age. He was pretty big. In general, I felt safe around him. I didn't think much of it after that happened. I didn't think much of it until a few weeks later. After school, I used to ride my bike to my friend's house, which was about 4 blocks away, to watch tsunami. I was riding there one day, and after passing an abandoned school, he pulled out in front of me and rolled down the window. "Hey little kid, you need a ride? It's getting pretty late," he said, to a T, in the near same way he did last time. Without any real emotion, no smile. I got visibly shaken. "No thanks, I'm just heading down the road," I said, timidly. I kept my distance, and my eyes stayed on him. "Well, I talked to your parents a minute ago. They seemed worried." "You sure you don't need a ride?" he replied. "No thanks," I said, "they know where I'm headed." He just shrugged, said okay and drove off again. As you might have guessed, I hightailed it to my friend's house and called my parents to pick me up that night. Even though my parents knew of the previous encounter, I opted out of telling them about it this time, just telling them it got too dark. At the time, I just didn't want them to worry. Plus, I thought I had handled it pretty well, and was proud of myself. In retrospect, I should have said something. I still haven't told them anything else past this point. Because not only did he not show up again, but several times after. He even caught me with friends. Talked to them, and always asked the same thing. Hey y'all, it's pretty late. You need a ride? In the same tone, lacking what I'd say is any sort of normal emotion or inflection. I know this sounds quite dramatic, but I'm not really sure how to explain his voice. It was just more unsettling the more he talked. The times he appeared weren't really predictable. Sometimes it would be after a couple of weeks, others 2 months would pass. But one thing that was predictable was where he would show, and what time of day. The old school. Around 3 p.m. Even in the summer. He even always tried to catch us on the same side of the school, near the front, where people usually weren't. This went until about the end of summer, when the last time I ran into him, which is when I got really scared. I'm on my bike, riding from my friend's house. He, of course, stops me again. Asks the same thing again. I say no. But this time, he said, well, hey, I know your dad. I know Preston, we used to work together, he said, very casually. Why don't you just put the bike in the back and I'll give you a lift back home? I instantly started shaking, and my head was racing. How did he know my dad's name? I thought. When we had described them to my parents, they didn't seem to know who he was. This whole time, I'd been going off the idea of if you don't know the face, don't trust them sort of mentality taught me. So, I decided to test him. I asked him, where? And he replied, well, why don't you just get in the car and we'll talk about it. I just sped off on my bike. I avoided the school for a while. I took alternate routes around the neighborhood to my friend's house, until I was able to be dropped off at his stop. I saw his van around once or twice, but after that year, puberty took its course and I went from being a meek little boy to a very tall teen pretty quick, and I didn't see him again. I'm 28 now, and having only just recently reflecting back on this, I guess I just let it slip because I never thought it was important or relevant enough to even consider. But damn, now that I think about it, it sends chills down my spine. If I could describe the guy in one word, it would be textbook. He even rode around in a giant family van. I should have spoke up. Luckily nothing happened, and the event didn't leave much impact on me. Or as much as it could potentially have. I still don't know how he knew my dad's name. I don't really want to think too hard on it,